Alright, so what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and welcome back everybody to a brand new video on the channel. This is going to be a pretty exciting one. It's a video that I've wanted to make for a while, and what we're going to be doing this is ranking every single map in PUBG from worst to best. So the brand new winter map of Vikendi has just come out, and technically it's on the test server right now, but I feel like I've gotten in enough hours in playtime to make a decision on which maps are my favorite and which ones are my least favorite. So the way that we're going to be ranking these today is basically using a scale of things like loot balance, map design, aesthetic, pretty much anything and everything that makes a map great, and we're going to see which ones stack up to each other. Now, before we get started, as always, if you don't mind leaving a like rating on the video, if this is something that you enjoy, I would really appreciate it, as well as make sure you are subscribing if you are new to the channel so you don't miss any more PUBG content that we do around here, and I promise you, you won't want to miss out. And also, let me know in the comments, what is your personal favorite map in PUBG? Of course, I'm going to be giving my opinions about what I think is the superior map in this game, but I want to get a general consensus of what pretty much everybody is agreed upon to be the best map. And you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe a good place to start with this should be maybe asking my friends what do they think of the map. So let's call my buddy.
Hello?
Hey man, what's going on? What's up?
Not a lot. It's 1:30 a.m. Why you call me?
So the new winter map just came out for PUBG. Like they literally just dropped it. I was gonna see if you wanted to play, get some duos in. You down?
Did you just ask if I want to play
On
PUBG
on PUBG
in December 2018? Is that what you just asked me?
Listen, they have a thing where you can actually walk through the snow and there's tracks. It's new.
See, I could have swore that you just asked me if I wanted to play PUBG in December of 2018. That's you're a funny guy, Chopper. You're a funny guy. That's stand up. I think is where your future is, if I'm being honest, because like that's you nailed that joke out with great delivery right there. That was, I mean, were you being serious or?
So clearly my friends are really passionate about the game, so I always gotta, take it up with them to see what they think about it. No, but for real, I think that the worst map in PUBG, or at least my least favorite, has to be Miramar. Now, there's a couple reasons why I'm putting Miramar this low. There's only 4 maps to choose from, so one of them's gotta take this spot on the list, and I think it has to be this one, just because I don't believe that this is the greatest design for a map. When it comes to aesthetics, I think a lot of Miramar is great. A lot of it is actually quite ugly and dark, and it's hard to fight in places, but overall, it doesn't have an amazing aesthetic, but it's something that I can definitely get used to, especially in certain areas. Now, when it comes to map design itself, this is where I take the biggest grievance. The map design is so much that there's a lot of wasted space, and especially on like the left side and the top portions of the map that hardly get any playtime. Like, believe it or not, this map has been out for this long already, and there's places that I've not even physically played in it, just because the circle always tends to land in the middle, or maybe near to the right, or even down near the south, kind of like where that second island is. Very rarely, but it does do that. However, the left side and the top don't really get any love whatsoever, and it's a shame because there's a lot of really cool, unique settings that would be amazing for battles, but sadly, they're just never going to see the light of day. And another thing that I don't think is great in Miramar is the loot balance. Now, I think that most players would agree with this, is that if you're not really dropping any of the hot drops, Picado, Hacienda, or anything in the main center of the plane path, you're not going to get set up very fast at all. If you want to go to the outskirts in these smaller name areas, you might loot tons of buildings, but they seem to be virtually empty. It's very, very strange. It takes a long time to get completely set up, especially if you're rolling with the squad. Solos can be okay and manageable, but the most ridiculous thing about Miramar is the fact that the early game and the mid game are going to be incredibly slow because of how large the map is and how spread out everybody's going to be. I've actually said that this would probably play better with 150 players, but then again, we don't know how that would affect the servers, if it would be stable or not, but it would be something to maybe try out. I just think that overall, when it comes to the design of this map, it would work much better with 130 to maybe 150. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that Miramar gets right. It has amazing vehicles. My favorite one is the good old Stang, dude. That thing is absolutely insane, and that's probably my favorite vehicle in the entirety of PUBG, but it's a shame that it's only in this map. All things considered, I would never say no to playing a match of Miramar, but when we get into these other maps here, you're going to see that this one just doesn't really hold a candle as far as actual gameplay design and the way that it's built comparing to the rest of the ones that we got coming up. So the map coming in next is what we're going to be ranking higher than Miramar, and this is Sanhok. Now, I think that for a lot of players, Sanhok was their first experience when it comes to PUBG. This was when, during the summer craze, when this game was getting big on other platforms like Xbox and mobile and everything like that, some new PC players joined in at this time. It was a very big and innovative time when it comes to PUBG. Like, a lot of brand new things were added, tons of new weapons, and I think that when Sanhok's biggest strength was the fact that it brought a lot of new content. And at least for me personally, that kind of stuff is really important. As a YouTuber, as a content creator, it's nice to have constant updates or something new to talk about every now and again. And like during the time of Sanhok, the training grounds were added, plenty brand new weapons were added to the game. Almost, it felt like weekly. Realistically, it was probably once or twice a month, but still, that's pretty good. As well as they were switching out vehicles like it was nobody's business. When this map first came out, all the vehicles were just the vanilla ones from the base version of Erangel, right? You had the Dacia, UAZ, motorcycle, that kind of thing. And then a little bit later, they ended up adding all these new Sanhok themed vehicles that I think fit into the map great. There's a brand new pickup truck. There's something, I believe it's called like a Tukashi. And not to mention just the plethora of guns that were added during this time as well. Like, that's one of the biggest ups that I can give Sanhok. And while like that's all well and good, I still don't believe that Sanhok's design of the map itself is the best. I think it's good, but I think it missed the mark on a couple of points. Now, this is the smallest map in PUBG, and granted, that's kind of what they were going for. But the problem is, once everybody figured out how this map works, you drop one place and one place only, and that's boot camp for the most part. And if boot camp is too crowded, then you go paradise. So what this ends up meaning is that over half the lobby is normally going to die within the first 1 to 2 minutes, meaning that you have an extremely slow mid game, similar to Miramar, but it's even more like amplified and annoying just because of how small the map feels, and you don't have that extra space like you do in Miramar. Now, I gotta be honest though, the late game is great. The circle moves in a little bit slower so that you actually have time to outrun it, and it's more about gunplay than just dying to the blue, and I really appreciate that. In my opinion, players shouldn't really be dying to the zone that often. It should be the catalyst for getting players together, but it shouldn't be the main threat. That's not really the point of BR. So as far as the late game design is concerned, I think it's absolutely perfect. You have a super exciting early game, very, very slow mid game, and then it picks up again later during the final circle. So if there was a way to kind of like excite that mid game just a little bit, I think it could be a much better designed map, but I understand that that's really hard to strike that balance. Aesthetically, the map is really pretty. Like, I gotta be honest, it might be the most beautiful map in the game. I think that's up for debate, obviously, but especially when the sun is out, there's a couple of different weather settings on Sanhok. There's a more cloudy one, and then there's just like the bright sunshine, and I prefer to play in that. I just think that's kind of what it was made for, and that's just the play style that I like to go with on this one. But the map is just pretty no matter which way you want to look at it. You have these beautiful jungles around you, as well as some nice coastal areas with rocks, and if you want to travel by boat or swim, the water is gorgeous as well, so it's never going to be bad to look at, even if you don't like the design of the map. When it comes to the loot balance in this map, I think it might be one of the best in the game. There's no place that you can go that won't have ARs, right? You can go to the no-named huts that are just surrounding the bigger name areas, and you're still going to get maybe relatively the same amount of loot. It might take you longer, but you're still gonna like stand a chance when it comes to people coming out of the boot camp, whoever makes it out alive. In my opinion, Sanhok and Miramar are the two extremes. They're polar opposites when it comes to loot balance. Miramar has not enough stuff, and Sanhok has like almost too much stuff, but when you have to pick at least one of those, I'd rather have too much to pick from than not enough loot. You know what I mean? Overall, I think this is probably the easiest map to play just because of the design. I think once you kind of learn these certain areas, it's easy to predict how players are going to behave in other areas of the game. So if you're new to PUBG and you're just trying to get your bearings, then maybe practicing Sanhok for a long time, it'll help getting used to the other maps much easier. So all in all, I'm not saying Sanhok is perfect by any sense of the word. It's got its problems, but overall, I have to say that the map is fantastic. So the map ranking in above Sanhok has to be Erangel. Now, this is the map that made PUBG famous. If you ask anybody who has played this game, you know, either when it came out or very recently, what their favorite map is or what get them started on this game, it's most likely going to be Erangel, and it's the map that everybody's pretty much familiar with. The thing about this is that Erangel has such a flawless design and personality to it that it's so identifiable. It's basically the birthplace of all the famous PUBG moments and locations, right? Pochinki became famous because of it, the hot drop to the school, the military base, the bridge, all of these are very recognizable, even to players who might not really be involved in the game anymore. They remember what these things are and what they represented. In the map design, there's really not a lot of wasted space either. All the locations you generally get to play at for the most part if you have enough hours on this game, so you get to experience the map in its entirety. The map flow is great. There's plenty of ways to get around, as there's bridges, vehicles scattered around throughout all of the towns and even in between towns, that you should never have a problem navigating this map at all. It's very recognizable and easy to identify where you are. You know what's crazy is that like a while ago, I found some really old footage of me playing PUBG for like the first time basically, and I could not identify where I was in the slightest. Now you can draw me almost anywhere in Erangel, and even if I don't have the map in front of me, I could probably figure out where I am or what kind of city is close to me, just because it's that iconic of a map. Because this was the original one, this is where we first fell in love with the game and everything inside it. It introduced to us all of the vehicles and guns that we would play with for so long, where we fell in love with the UAZ, the M416, all of these classic weapons that fit this theme and this setting and aesthetic so well. I guess a better way to put it is that Erangel represents PUBG itself. You know, people see Miramar or Sanic or whatever, and they're maps that are attached to PUBG. But if you look at Erangel, people see gameplay of it, they immediately know that this is PUBG. I don't know if that really makes sense. What I'm trying to say is that Erangel is so inherently tied to the like structure and DNA of this game that if it wasn't for Erangel, I don't think PUBG would exist in the current form that it's in. If they had launched with Miramar or some other map, I don't know if it would have been as popular as it ended up being. This is just so iconic, and everything about the map was so unique and different at the time that really helped make this game popular and stand out, in my opinion. Now, while Erangel is definitely not perfect either, I don't believe there's any single map that is 100% flawless. It got as close as it can be, and especially after all the patches and updates, to being the cleanest, most fun experience on this game possible. The aesthetic of Erangel is great. I don't even need to mention it. You all know what it looks like. It has an amazing backstory. Like, the lore is crazy as well. I've made some videos about that if you're curious about it. It does have some actual structure and like kind of content behind it, which a lot of people are surprised by. But Erangel, just for me, everything fell into place really nicely. I think it was great, a map to start this game out with, and this will be forever tied to this game, and they can never be separated. No matter which way you want to look at it, this was by far the most updated map. Not even just in terms of new weapons or vehicles or even towns, because they added some actual new places to play a little bit later on down the road in Erangel too. But not even just looking at that, this is the most updated map just in terms of balance and community feedback. I'm not ignoring its flaws either. You know, there is wasted space in this map. Zarky hardly ever gets any love, and I do believe it's probably the biggest offender of wasted space in Erangel, but I'll let that slide, as this map does so many other things right, and I believe that this is a lot of people's favorite, regardless of what you think about it. Most players that are playing either on PC or even console to this day probably learned the game just on Erangel. So it's always going to hold a special place in my heart. There's no taking that away. But in fact, I don't believe that this is the best map in the game. If you weren't aware, the brand new winter map Vikendi was released not too long ago. And this surprised me greatly because Erangel was it set the bar quite high. And I didn't think anything would be able to break it until I played the winter map. So ladies and gentlemen, that's right. Coming in at our best ranked map is Vikendi, the new winter map that has been released for this. Now, while this is still on the test server, there is a couple of issues that are being worked out, but I do believe at the bottom of my heart, this is going to be the greatest map as far as overall gameplay design, and I'll tell you why. Every single place that you're going to drop in battle is so unique and different. They range anything from being like a wooden cabin out in the woods in the wilderness to literally a dino park that has kind of like an entire exhibit that you can walk into and fight. It's a circular room with dinosaurs under glass. Like, this is real. That's insane. Not only that, but the map innovated quite a bit. There is a new feature where if you walk in the snow, your footsteps stay behind to where they can be tracked by other players. The footsteps stay in the snow and are able to be tracked for around 15 minutes approximately. So that's around the average time that a player is going to be in the game. So if you can use this to your advantage, you can really track down exactly where your enemies are going. Of course, there's new weapons and vehicles. That's a given for every single new map, but there also is coming a new feature where there's a sort of scope swap, right? You can have a higher magnification scope on the top of your gun and quickly flip it over to the side to use as a sort of a red dot. I believe that's going to be added when it comes to the live server, but that will be very interesting and it completely change the meta about how you play in gun battles. Normally, you have to pull up your inventory if you want a more close range or, you know, higher magnification scope and switch on the fly, but now this is actually going to be integrated into the gameplay which is going to change gunfighting entirely. Not to mention the C4 equipment is coming, as well as the riot shield. That was announced during E3, and I do believe this is going to be added shortly after Vikendi is put into the live servers, and this is something that I've been asking for forever, because PUBG has needed more toys that aren't specifically guns, and this fills that void perfectly. In my experience, the map has virtually no wasted space. Even on like the polar ends of the map, there's ways to travel around where there's a frozen lake to where you can cross the water, which helps out drastically. The zone moves quite slow, and it kind of gives that Sanhok vibe to where it's not about the circle taking you down, it's really about getting those players together and fighting in gun battles, which in my opinion is great. Vikendi really feels like it learned from all the mistakes and successes of the other maps and put all of the best parts into this one. If you've not played the winter map, if it's not on your platform as of yet, it will be very soon, and I highly encourage you to get some actual play time on this. I really think that you're going to thoroughly enjoy it with all the new things that it has to offer. I'm so impressed with this map, like literally just right now. Like, who's to say what it's going to look a few months down the road when everything, all these new things are added, all of the promised features that will be implemented very soon. This map could go from like a 9 to a full-on 15 on the scale. However, one complaint I do have about the map is the loot balance, but thankfully this is a super easy fix. It just involves them changing up exactly where things spawn at. But the problem is that it just seems like, unfortunately, micro Uzis and shotguns are the most common weapons, and there's not a lot of ARs to go around. You'll go into huge places or really big warehouses with pretty much no loot to be found. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is because it's a test server thing and they want to figure out exactly how they want to tweak the loot. So I'm going to give them that. Assuming the loot's balanced when the map finally does come out, I do believe that at the end of the day, this is the greatest and most perfect designed map that PUBG has ever had. I really hope you guys end up enjoying it as well, and we'll see what the opinion is when Vikendi hits all platforms and everything like that. But anyways, guys, I think that is going to be the video for today. That is ranking every single map in PUBG from worst to best. I hope you guys did enjoy this list. Let me know your opinions down below about whether you agree or disagree with the list, and let me know why. And make sure you guys drop a like on the video, of course, if you did enjoy, as well as subscribing if you're brand new, if you want to see more stuff like this as well. And make sure you go follow me on Twitter, Instagram, join my Discord server. All that stuff will be linked down below in the description, so go and check that out really quick. But anyways, I want to thank you all so much for coming out once again. It's been my absolute pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all on the next one or the next live stream. Take it easy, guys, and peace out.